Decimal rules. Today, we're going to talk about and focus on dividing with decimal numbers. So let's look at the rules for dividing with decimal numbers. First, turn your divisor into a whole number. And we'll look at that divisor and identify that in just a minute. Also, whatever you do to the divisor to make it a whole number, you also have to do to the dividend. It does not have to be a whole number. Now, we're just talking about the dividend. The dividend does not have to be a whole number. Now, let's just take a moment and let's identify those vocabulary words for division again. So, when we're looking at a division problem, the divisor is the number outside of your division symbol. It's also the second number in your division problem if it's being written out horizontally. And then the dividend is the number inside your division symbol, or it's the first number in your division problem if it's written horizontally. Finally, we have the quotient, which is your answer to a division problem. Okay, so there's our vocabulary words I wanted to review real quick so that you wouldn't feel completely lost when I started talking about them. But now let's look at it with numbers and decimal numbers more specifically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my example. I'm going to write it out horizontally first. And my equation is 28 and 899 thousandths divided by 1 and 9 tenths. A division problem. Okay, so there's our vocabulary words I wanted to review real quick so that you wouldn't feel completely lost when I started talking about them. But now let's look at it with numbers and decimal numbers more specifically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my example. I'm going to write it out horizontally first. And my equation is 28 and 899 thousandths divided by 1 and 9 tenths. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, the first thing I want to do is I actually want to go ahead and set up my divisor. And remember, this is our divisor here, 1 and 9 tenths. I want to set that up to where it needs to be a whole number. Here's that first part of the instructions when you're dividing. So your divisor, you're turning it into a whole number. So the way that you do that, and this is a strategy, because the decimal really never moves in a number. It always lives between the ones place and the tenths place. But our strategy, since we can't physically move that decimal on paper, is we're going to make it look like it's moving. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and I've got one place value to the right of the decimal. So I'm just going to move that decimal point over on the other side of the 9, to the right of the 9. So now this 1 and 9 tenths actually becomes 19. So now this is my whole number divisor. Now, the second part of the instructions say that whatever you do to the divisor, you have to do to the dividend as well. So, my dividend, which is this number here, 28 and 899 thousandths, I'm going to have to move the decimal one place value to the right in this number as well. Switch over my pencil. One place value. And where my decimal is now going to be between the 8 and the 9. Now, just like it says in the instructions, the dividend does not have to be a whole number. It does not have to be. The divisor does, but the dividend does not. So, now I have, I'm going to go ahead and put my division symbol back again. So now I have 288 and 99 hundredths divided by 19. Now, I'm going to set this up to solve using the standard algorithm for division. And this is what everybody's familiar with. So if mom and dad are helping you on this and they're watching, they know what to do from here. So I'm going to take and set up my division to solve it. And remember, my 19, my divisor, goes on the outside. So my 19 is here. And then on the inside, my dividend is 288 and 99 hundredths. So now, let me get this arrow out of the way. And first thing I'm going to do, now that I've set it up to solve, is I'm going to actually take and move this decimal straight up into my quotient, or my answer to the division problem. Now that I've placed my decimal, I'm going to go ahead and solve as if I was just solving this as a whole number division problem. So I'm going to look, and first, I cannot multiply 19 times anything and get 2. So now I'll see, can I multiply 19 times a number and get 28? Well, here's where I'm going to start to build my bank, and we've talked about this in division already. So 19 times 2, well, that's 18, regroup, and 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, that's 38. Oh, well, but I could do 19 times 1 and take that, because 38 is too big. I can't subtract that from 28. So 19 times 1 is 19, that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to take this 1, put it above the 8. If it helps, you can go ahead and put that X there to show that you don't need anything over the 2. Now, 1 times 19 is 19. So I'm going to subtract, let me get that little mark out of the way, 19 from 28. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We won't go into detail about, let's see, that just becomes 18. That becomes a 1. So 18 minus 9 is 9. 1 minus 1 is 0. And then remember, you're going to bring down your next digit in your number, which is an 8 in this case. So I have 98. So I'm going to try, let's try 19 times 5. Well, let's see. 9 times 5 is 45. There's a 4. And then 5 times 1 is 5 plus 4 is 9. 95. That's as close as I'm going to get to 98 without going over. So I'm going to take the 5, and it's going to go over the 8 up here. So we said 5 times 19 is 95. I'm going to subtract again. 8 minus 5 is 3. I have to bring down the next digit in my number, which this case is a 9. Now, if you look at your bank, 39, well, I've got 38 up here. 19 times 2. So I'm going to use that 2, and I'm going to place it right here above the 9. 19 times 2 is 38. So now I'm going to subtract. 9 minus 8 is 1. 3 minus 3 is 0. I still have one digit left to bring down. down that 9. Well, now I have 19. When I